Okay, it should be good as soon as I can mute this. There we go. Okay. Well, welcome everybody to the joint meeting of the Maryland Heights and Creve Coeur Democratic Club, uh, Township Democratic Clubs. I'm Harvey Furman. I'm president of the Maryland Heights Club, and we have Sydney Jackson, who's president of the Creve Coeur Club. And I'd like to welcome everybody. And I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would join me, I'll share the screen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And lots of good accomplishments that our country has made over the years, including all the technology that came out of the space race that hopefully is helping people. Anyway, let me stop that share. Okay. I'd like to first introduce any elected officials or folks who are running for office. If you would self-identify and please say a few words. I know we have Nicole Greer.
Yep, I'll go. I was trying to see if Mayor Ella Jones was going to speak up, but I'll go. I am Councilwoman-elect Nicole Greer for the city of Creve Coeur. So I won my election. These days and weeks are really weird right now. I don't know, was that last week? But it feels good to say that after two back-to-back very hard fought campaigns. So here we are. I'll be sworn in on next Monday, the 28th. I do have, oh, and I'm also the committee woman for the Creve Coeur Township. So because I am the committee woman of the Creve Coeur Township, I do have some updates from the St. Louis County Democrat Central Committee. I don't know if this is the time. I see our distinguished guest, Mr. Bowman, is already here with us. So I'm happy, Harvey,
Yeah, we'll
Sydney, to
do
do that
we'll we'll
later.
we'll do announcements in a couple of minutes. Let's do the
Okay. All
introductions.
right.
But yes, I want to hear the updates. I know that we have Mayor Jones, if you'd
Hello,
like to introduce.
everyone. Mayor Ella Jones from the city of Ferguson and committee woman for the Ferguson Township.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us. Any other elected officials or candidates? Okay, now we move to announcements. Something very exciting is happening this coming Friday, and Nicole will fill us in.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. So this Friday, hopefully most of you all have heard, we will be having a town hall in Congressional District 2. Like Harvey and I were kind of discussing a little bit earlier, the DNC has identified Missouri's second congressional district as a target district. They are going after Ann Wagner, and as a result of that, we will be having a town hall on Friday at 4 p.m. I think that's the right time. Yeah, 4 p.m. Friday at the DoubleTree in Chesterfield. If you have not signed up for that and you want to attend, I want to encourage you to sign up for that. I will tell you, it filled up immediately. But we were told by the DNC that they did not want to put a cap on that. I think, the thought is a lot of people are going to sign up and they won't show up. But I will tell you, this is the preference is for folks that live in the second congressional district. So again, 4 p.m. Friday at the Chesterfield DoubleTree. And if you have any questions about that, any additional questions about that, I'll be happy to put my information in the chat. You are more than welcome to reach out to me as your committee woman. Mayor Jones, did you have something to add to that or a question? I see your hand up.
No, something going on in the first congressional district.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So I was just kind of going to give a little update, and then I'll punt it over to Mayor Jones, but I was just going to kind of give an update. Like I said, as your committee woman, I think that part of my role is to kind of let you all know what your St. Louis County Central Committee is doing. I do want to let you know we do meet the third Thursday of every month. The meetings are, pretty much open if you're interested in attending. I will say that, we have to be very careful. We don't just let anyone in the room. So if you haven't been before and you don't have, someone there that someone may ask you a couple of questions. And so we've had people that we didn't recognize come in and we ask them a couple of questions and they kind of tell us how they heard about it and, who they are. And it's been fine. So just kind of want to give you a heads up on that. We meet the third Thursday at 7 p.m. at Teamsters in Maryland Heights. What's that local number, Sydney? I always forget.
600.
Teamsters 600. Okay. In Maryland Heights. I know I've seen Harvey in the meetings before.
Yeah,
This past
on Weldon Parkway.
Yeah, Weldon Parkway. Thank you. Thank you. This past Thursday, our meeting was last Thursday. We did have a presentation from our new county prosecutor, Melissa Price Smith. So she talked about some things that she's doing with the prosecutor's office. She made it very clear that we all know she was appointed because Congressman Bell stepped down from that role, and she was appointed, and she made it very clear that she plans to run for that seat in 2026 when that current term ends. So we heard from her. I think most of you may know our St. Louis County Democrats Gala is going to be on May 17th. It's going to be at the Westport Sheraton Chalet Hotel. So that's, kind of close in our area. So if you can attend, I would encourage you to attend and, get in the room with fellow county Democrats. It's always a good time. We did have a generous donation from Steve O'Laughlin, who's the owner of LHM Properties. So 50% of the venue, or actually the 100% of the venue was donated by Steve O'Laughlin. So if you see him or know him, please tell him thank you. And then 50% of the food and beverage was also donated by the LHM Properties. So that was huge for us because we know we need to be very smart the way we spend our money. Speaking of the gala, the Eagleton Awards are open. So if you'd like to submit someone that you think is deserving of the Eagleton Award, it's a volunteer award. If you know somebody that's been out there working hard for us and you'd like to submit their name, those submissions are open right now. I'm going to drop my contact information in the chat and you can reach out to me about that. Also, I want to let you know we have some new subcommittees. We're trying to do some different innovative things, just be better. And right now, we've launched a fundraising committee. They meet every Monday. It's the fundraising/gala committee. They meet every Monday. You don't have to be a committee person. So if you're interested, if that's kind of your thing, fundraising is your thing, we'd love to have people join us for the fundraising committee. Just let me know. I talked about the town hall. Another thing that came up in our meeting Thursday is that the Missouri Ethics Commission needs commissioners. They are looking for someone from Congressional District 2. So if that's something that you're interested in, what I've been told, and I've heard this more than once, is that when someone files an ethics complaint, nothing happens because when they meet, they don't have a quorum. So there's nothing they can do. So I think it's very important that we get a hold of that because sometimes those complaints are very valid and we need to have a process for that. We voted to
Who do we contact
participate
for
in
that?
oh, you have a contact for that?
No, I was
Is that
wondering
what you said?
who would you contact if you're interested in the MEC?
Just let me know and we can I can let you know what the process is. Just reach out to me. I might have it in an email that I can forward to you as well. So just if you're interested, let me know. Let's see. We did vote to participate in the Annie Malone Parade this year, which will be May 18th. That is the day after the gala. The gala is Saturday, and the Annie Malone parade will be that Sunday. So we volunteered to participate. I think at the $500 level would be the donation, as well as we are going to support the city of Delwood's Juneteenth celebration. So again, just kind of wanted to catch you all up on some things. We also talked about the NAACP gala coming up, but Mr. Bowman's on the call, so he'll give you all the goods about that. And that's really all I have. If you all have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'd be happy to answer any questions. If you have a quick question now, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions?
Uh,
Seeing no questions? Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Mayor Jones, your hand is raised. I don't know if you,
Okay, real fast on
Yeah.
Thursday, April the 24th at 6:30 p.m., Congressman Bell of the 1st Congressional District will be speaking at the Missouri Municipal League monthly meeting, and the meeting will be held at the Maryland Heights Community Center.
do you know what time?
6:30 is Mango, 7 o'clock is the meeting. Everyone is welcome.
Okay. Also that evening, if anyone is interested, the Army Corps of Engineers is having a meeting about the cleanup of Coldwater Creek with all the radioactive materials. That's also open to the public, and you can either reach out to me or Google FUSRAP, FUSRAP. That's the Corps of Engineers cleanup.
It sounds like you might be trying.
Anyway, oh boy, my phone decided to talk to me. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Nicole. All kinds of great, exciting things going on. I do want to mention that the links for signing up for Friday's town hall and also for buying tickets are in the chat. If you wish, you can open that now and then read about them and sign up at your leisure, but you'll at least have it open if you click on the links in the chat now. Okay. Any other, oh, I have another couple of quick announcements. Mobilize has a very good listing of all the events and demonstrations that are going on in the area. So if you sign on to Mobilize, you'll be able to get kind of an inventory of what's going on. Also, the St. Louis County Central Committee is building a centralized calendar as well, from what I can tell. I haven't been on there yet, but I've gotten a couple of emails regarding it. Let's see. And what, last but not least, I'd like to just remind everyone that there's this application called 5 Calls. I had it ready to show you, but of course I've managed to lose my screen on it. It's 5calls.org. It is really fantastic, very easy to, here it is, I'll show it to you. Very, very easy to make calls to your congresspeople. Let your voice be heard, even if you're in the 1st Congressional. It doesn't hurt to reinforce Wesley with, to do the right things. I'm sure he's getting a lot of folks calling him up and yelling at him and telling him not to do the right things. So it's always nice to let him know that we appreciate him. And this is 5 calls, and you can see they'll even give you, pick what you're interested in. They'll even give you a starting script to use to when you make the calls. Very, very effective. Okay, with that, I'd like to introduce our guest for the evening and speaker, John Bowman. Leading the NAACP as president for over 5 years, his focus has been on strategic leadership and advocacy, driving impactful community initiatives and fostering strong partnerships. In John's words, it's very simple. It's not reinventing the wheel, it's addressing discrimination, creating equitable opportunities for all people. In addition to leading the St. Louis County NAACP, Mr. Bowman has served our community and state in several different capacities over the years, including alderman for the city of Norwoods and state representative for Missouri District 70, where he served as the chair of the Missouri Legislative Black Caucus. Mr. Bowen has lots to talk about, lots of questions to ask. And I've asked him to talk a little bit about DEI, what it is, how it's being misused and misinterpreted in the press and by the administration. And John, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Good evening, everyone. As Harvey spoke to earlier, I have been in public service now for over 40 years. I'm still actually doing some community service as the Fire District Director at Northeast Fire District, as well as committeeman for Normandy Township. It's a strange DNA. I know you say, why would you want to do this? Well, I grew up in a society where I recall watching television where African Americans were being beaten by police officers and having dogs put on them. And it's vivid. And it's a memory that I definitely remind myself of to make sure we don't repeat those type of actions. So let me tell you a little bit about, for those of you who may not know, the NAACP, of course, most of you probably know, it's been around since 1909. If you count the years with W.B. Du Bois, 1906, the Niagara Project, it's even longer than that. We've been a part of major landmark cases, especially in Missouri. The Dred Scott case, Linda Brown versus the Board of Education. Presently, we just recently won a court case against DOJ and the Trump administration on the Consumer Advocacy Commission, or department, where those employees who were fired by DOJ will be able to return to work sometime, hopefully in the near future. But I also want to do a quick disclaimer. The NAACP is nonpartisan, but we are political as hell. So therefore, we are politically aware. Now, this new terminology that's recently been made sound as a bad word, DEI, which is really diversity, equity, and inclusion, which we need to determine, as someone spoke to me about last week, what part of this do you have a problem with? You have a problem with diversity? Do you have a problem with equity? Do you have a problem with inclusion? Those are some of the things we're going to try to sort through here this evening. Because really, DEI determines who's in the room, who's getting the opportunities, who's being heard, and it all matters. And DEI is not optional. It's essential because in this room, we all know that diversity is much bigger than checking a box. It's about representing everyone's interests. So there's no doubt about it, people of color and from different backgrounds are qualified, capable, deserving, and deserve the opportunity. So one of the things I think that catches this money-driven administration's attention, or it should, the Black community spending power is $1.7 trillion. So if there is no DEI, there will be no dollars from our community. We are engaging in what we refer to as a boycott. Well, we will spend our hard-earned monies with corporations and organizations that respect us. If not, we will spend our dollars somewhere else. So let's dive into defining diversity, equity, and inclusion. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are three closely linked values held by many organizations, institutions, entities, and education systems, right? That are working to be supportive of different groups of individuals including people of different races, ethnicities, religions, abilities, genders, and sexual orientations. So we see DEI as embracing the difference in that everyone brings to the table while acknowledging the benefit of multiple perspectives, ideas, solutions, and provided with individuals, different backgrounds, identities, and views, and collaborate, and that they are heard. That's what we see diversity as. Equity is treating everyone fairly and providing opportunities for everyone to succeed, considering their traits, including resources, support, and potential accommodations to help those with disabilities thrive in the workplace. Inclusion is creating an environment where people of all backgrounds can thrive and contribute to their fullest potential. So diversity, equity, and inclusion became somewhat of the Band-Aid solution for corporations and education institutions as a safe way to invest in equity. However, the NAACP will work to achieve a society in which DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, is protected while eradicating anti-Black racism within the economy, education, health justice, and the environment. There also will be a request for a commitment to diverse hiring practices and diverse leadership. All corporations need to actively work to build a workforce that represents a variety of backgrounds, identities, and perspectives. So, once again, I am searching, I'm really trying to determine why I'm being very facetious here. I know what is going on because this administration is afraid that people who are qualified and should have opportunities will, well, I don't say they want to, well, they do. This Trump administration wants to homogenize America, where it does not embrace the power of diversity that we all bring to the table. And he is also really hoodwinking individuals into thinking it's all about race. When we know diversity, inclusion, equity, and inclusion covers many aspects of our lives, including the cleaning tables in bathrooms, handicap ramps. So I'll just say this. Some of the questions I have, as I had at the other meeting I was in, I want to ask you. I want to submit these to you guys. And I want to also give my point of view as president of the NAACP. So I want to submit to you all this evening that the white evangelical church has become morally bankrupt. The space for the elevation of Jesus has become a tuning fork for it's become a tuning fork for the Confederacy. Now, I just have some questions about this. When did speaking up for the poor become a euphemism for socialism or Marxism? I have questions. When did empathy for those with less become un-American? I have questions. When did compassion for those disabled become anti-American? When did banning books, when did banning Black books, or any books for that matter, become a new way to show patriotism, especially if you live in Florida or St. Charles? I have a question. When did lying about elections become a new way to gather support to run for a position? I tell you what, let me say it this way. How come? How come certain folks can ride at the Capitol, destroy property, attack the police, create an insurrection, but when Colin Kaepernick took a knee, it drove everybody crazy? I just have some questions. The man lost his job and was called un-American. How is it that a convicted felon, perpetrator of sexual assault, a serial liar, is the nominee and now president of the United States? Just asking these questions because these things are different. Why is it that why do Christian white evangelicals vote for a candidate with questionable faith and moral character? What is it? And why? Why are we so quick to ban books, but we cannot ban assault weapons so our children can come home from school safe? I have these questions. And I'm raising these questions because one that really stands out among this list as well is why is that we vote to privatize prisons for profit, but we can't vote to raise a teacher's salary? I have these questions. And why is it that billions of dollars to respond to crime, but we can't pass legislation to invest in the prevention of crime? Why is it? The miseducation of our electorate and the lack of ongoing engagement. We can no longer go into communities and a couple of weeks before the election. We can no longer keep stopping and going and mailing 20 and 30 mailers to a person's house thinking that addresses their kitchen table needs. We have to build trust with voters again. And that requires some time. It requires some engagement. As I stated at another meeting, I always look at the voting process similar to, my wife won't like this, my marriage. Before I closed the deal and was able to marry her, I had to walk in the park, take her to the movies. They build up that trust factor. And on our wedding day, I closed the deal. That's what we have to build that same trust with voters. They do not want to feel that we only see them every 2 years or every 4 years as worthy of a conversation. So with that being said, I want to say these questions linger with me. You all help me answer these questions because I know I'm preaching to the choir in this room. You guys are not the problem, but you are the messengers. We need to get this message out to the ones who need to hear the truth, because I firmly still believe truth will set you free. And this is not fake news. The fact of the matter is the Constitution says what it says. The president can only run for office twice. Everyone receives due process. Those things matter. We have to become the Pied Pipers again in our community and bring them along with us so the quality of everyone's life is uplifted and improved. With that, I'll close and say thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts and my questions with you this evening. And I will try to entertain any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. That was interesting and a reminder of how far we've come and how far we need to go.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
we still have work to do. Are there any questions for John?
All right.
Okay. Well, John, I have a couple of questions.
Okay, sure.
You thought you were going to get away easy, huh? Uh, do you have any idea of any programs in the St. Louis area that are being threatened by the administration's defunding of programs?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I just heard, well, we were just able, Miss Murdoch, we were just able to start up our first college NAACP branch at Washington University. After a year's worth of work, we want our young folks to see the America that we think it could be, and a greater America up under their leadership. And these cuts are going to affect research projects at several universities. Doge, and let me just also back up, because the NAACP, Women League of Voters, ACLU, Legal Defense Fund, we are in the courts every day. And it's very distracting, and it's very time consuming, very costly. Actually, I was a plaintiff for the House Bill 1847 bill here, where we sued Missouri over trying to make it a felony if you have the person with an absentee ballot or something silly. I said before, for our deposition with the MAGA Attorney General, Andrew Bailey, and we won that case in Cole County, I'm sure with the help of a great attorney named Denise Lieberman. I'm sure that we will be facing that court case. I got off course a little bit, but yeah, these cuts go to the fabric of society here in Missouri and everywhere, whether it's healthcare, education, many of the training programs. You know, I still oversee the training program for the UAW apprenticeship programs. I just recently received a letter from Doge where they want to examine our project. And these projects are ones that give people in underserved communities and young ladies an opportunity for a career path without them having to digest having a cost, because we have the money to pay for it. And so these are cutting to the core values of creating opportunity for everyone. This group of this administration and being rich like they are totally out of touch with the needs of everyday citizens and just do not care. They are playing three-card Molly with us, where they have us looking over here at all these different foolish things while they're trying to steal money from the Treasury. And the people is going to be the only solution to this problem. This is definitely rolling us back to the 60s civil rights movement style fighting. And it's going to take all hands on deck. I'm trying to get Ms. Murdoch, we're trying to get our young folks engaged and understand that this is going to have a lot more impact on their lives, my children, my grandchildren's lives, than it will on mine. And so we're trying to get them trained up for advocacy, frontline, John Lewis style, get in trouble, so that their voices, because at the end of the day, what really scares me more than anything is it looks like they're trying to take away our power to vote, not only just our voices, but everything. Mm-hmm. So yeah, in short though, Harvey, those federal dollars, they go into county government, state government, they go into programs at Slate, they go into St. Louis County workforce development programs, and definitely the healthcare systems. It's gonna have a very detrimental effect on this area, and it's gonna take us a long time to repair some of this damage.
I suspect they're looking to use your support of DEI to defund you.
Yeah, they've been floating out this scare tactic of they're gonna take away non-for-profits 501c3, C4 status. Let me say, the NAACP, as I said, been around since 1909. This is no new fight for us. We was fighting this fight before we had 501c3s and C4s. And we're not going to let the bully in the White House stop us from getting up every day and stand on the front lines and filling in the gap and taking on these ridiculous fights that are just inhumane and shows no empathy toward our society.
Well, I say this a little bit snarkily, so everyone please take it
Yeah,
that way. Um, one of the responses to the accusation that you guys are doing too much DEI would be maybe dealing with the lawsuit, the DEI lawsuit that our Attorney General has brought against Starbucks. I don't know if you guys are training any white people to work at Starbucks, but he says there's not enough white people working at Starbucks. So there you go. You can include that in your list of things that you do, and then you're helping out, right?
Harvey, our motto is we represent everywhere, regardless of race, creed, color, religion, or who you love. So if that's the case, so be it. But I got to tell you, they have it all wrong. If there was anyone who ever has single-handedly tried to dismantle years of work overnight, this is exactly what I see here. Because as numbers show, manufacturing jobs are not coming back to this country like they were previously because the economy has changed and the workforce needs have changed dramatically. So it's to me all an effort to, of course, give his rich billionaire buddies more money instead of making them pay their fair share of taxes like everyone else does. If they did that, this economy would be bursting at the seam. I mean, it's that trickle down economics never did work. We saw that with the Bush tax cuts and the Reagan stuff and all that. It's the same old nonsense that leaves the majority of our society behind. So, yeah, we just got to we got to get out there and fight very hard. I know it's once Bill Lucy, a longtime labor fighter who was over CBTU, told me when I was much younger, we was out protesting or striking. We was on a picket line, and it was hot, and I was tired. And he said, "Young man, you look tired." I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "Well, keep going." That's all I tell you. Keep going. So that's where we are, guys. All hands on deck. We got to push back on the oligarchs and all the nonsense. And like I said, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but you guys are the messengers. And NAACP will be here along with our other collaborative partners to make sure that these people don't get away with. They get away with a lot, but at some point they're going to be held accountable for it. I'll put it that way. And we can start now by making sure in the midterms we kind of change the dynamics of government. I know it's a long time to wait, but we have to start somewhere, turning back the tide of this tyranny that we're seeing.
Excellent. Thank you. I see Sandra has her hand up.
John, do you see any way possible for us to wake people up to vote other than just the presidential election? They vote in mass at that, but election like the one we just had, people aren't out to vote. We register them, but how do you have any suggestions for Creve Coeur on that?
Yeah, I think it's going to be, we'll need to accelerate our contacts. And people like Sydney who are young, they know the social media stuff very well. I would say that they should put Schoolhouse Rock on TikTok. And I say that because it doesn't appear that civics is being taught in schools anymore. So there is a gap on people's understanding on how government really works and how it impacts their way of life. So, I was fortunate enough to go to school when civics was being taught. So I knew the branches of the government. I knew funding came from the federal down to the state to the local, and how to advocate at the local level because all politics was local. But the midterms election probably matters more than any election, as you know. And so to get them out, I think we got to run old-fashioned shoe rubber campaign, door knocking, integrated with um, integrated with a heavy social media presence for young people who receive all their information there. But what used to work in the past needs to be put back in place. We have to go to contact. We have to make those 7 or 8 contacts, that FaceTime and get people to know, hey, if you decide you're not voting, you have made a choice. You've made a choice that it doesn't matter that your streets get paid. You have decided it doesn't matter that your children get a good education. So those are some of the things. And then we need to have an aspirational message as well. I don't want people thinking everything needs to be about Donald Trump. There needs to be an aspirational message where, revisiting similar to what President Obama did with hope. We've got to stop allowing us to get stuck on the boogeyman, which we know the madman is obviously crazy. He took yesterday's Resurrection Day to say some of the most hated things that you can say. So we have to build our own message and hardcore discipline field operation. So that's just, I when I was managing campaigns and working in that space, I lived and died by the field operation. I know people want to spend money on TV. I believed in the old-fashioned door knocking campaign personally.
Are there any other? Yeah,
I've got a question, and
ahead.
I can't find the raise the hand. My question is, could our speaker send the list of questions out? So I'd love to be able to spark conversation with other people.
Yes, I can. I will shoot the email over to Harvey or Sydney so they'll have it. Yes.
Great, thank you.
No problem. And also, don't hesitate to go to, I stay on message with NAACP National. So basically, if you want to go to our National NAACP website, you will see all of our positions on DEI and many other civil rights violation issues. I learned early on to stay on message. So there are no more.
Any other question?
Is there another one?
I have a question.
Okay.
What do you think it would help to increase voter participation if we had automatic voter registration? We used to have automatic draft registration for 18-year-old males. I go to the schools and go to the senior lunch times and register the seniors to vote, but it's still not helping. I don't see the young people getting involved. Would automatic voter registration where their 18th birthday comes and they get something in the mail that says you are now registered to vote, do you think that would help be a step forward?
I definitely don't think it hurts. I'll say this, through our efforts of voter registration and our partners last year, I rounded it up last meeting, but I looked at the numbers yesterday. We registered 61,245 voters in the state of Missouri last year. Of that number, in the St. Louis region, we probably did about a little bit over 25,000 new voters. You go into the high schools, and you get all of them registered. That's the same program we normally run because NAACP voter registration is our bloodline. The part I think we have to move towards is, once again, somehow creating an education similar to civics in the school, as well as mobilize. If we, right now today, I guarantee there are enough Democratic voters in this area in the urban areas to really decide who's the governor and probably who's the attorney general. But if you have 12 to 18% of the electorate coming out to vote, it's more than just voter registration anymore. It's the engagement, the education, and the mobilizing. Investing that time, as I was saying, to that relationship building to where you close the deal like you would like a marriage on election day, where that person is racing to the poll. Let's say, and I like automatic voting. I even love election day as a holiday even more. But we're going to have to stop doing the same things we've been doing. We've registered voters, and it's a wonderful thing. But we need to turn those voters out. And we need to give them a reason, with elected officials helping us, give them a reason to believe that it matters for them to come and vote. Because that's what, in my community, a lot of times I hear, it doesn't matter if I vote. Whatever, they're going to do whatever they want to do. It's not going to change anything for me. And that's why I have to fall into that argument about, well, you did make a choice. You decided it doesn't matter about your kids getting a good education. It doesn't matter about your streets being fit. And give them a pause. And I have done voter registration that I'll use, for example, Skate King at 11 o'clock at night. And that group is 18 to 25. And it's a long conversation. They didn't grow up with seeing the civil rights movement. They didn't grow up seeing Martin Luther King, or they didn't grow up seeing John Lewis. And some of them are the most protected class of citizens that we ever created because we gave them everything we didn't have. But anyway, that's a whole different conversation. We have to engage early and ongoing. That's my thought. I've been doing voter registration for 30 years. When I was working for Congressman Clay Sr. as a precinct captain back in the day, I was responsible for knowing everyone on 2 streets. I mean, I really had to know everyone on those 2 streets to the point who their family was, if everybody was registered, and provide them with information on upcoming activities, because that made them feel like they were a part of the system. Somehow, with voter suppression efforts and what goes on now, people feel disengaged because there's a whole machine out there with misinformation, voter suppression efforts to make sure people don't vote, opposed to making it easier to vote. So we have to just really engage early, those constant contacts. I see another hand up. I hope that helps a little, but that's my thing. If I had $1 million to spend on voter activities, I would spend it on voter contact from now through next year. I would not spend another penny. Well, I would spend some on voter registration, but I would spend a lot of it on voter contact, mobilizing.
Before we get to Mary's question, we have another question on the on the chat. What ideas do you have to get through what ideas do you have to get through to disenfranchised voters who think their vote doesn't matter or make a difference? I think you answered that, but I'd like to throw something in, and that is we need to make the issues personalized. And I heard one of the good messaging people, Drew Western. I was listening to a talk that he did just yesterday. I was listening to the talk, and he said, talking about choice, talking about women's rights, those are our abbreviations. The general public and the disenfranchised voters who don't really think that all this stuff matters to them, they don't understand what that really means. And he suggested instead that and this is a little bit hard to get into 2 or 3 words, but we talk about more of the moral aspects. Shouldn't a woman be able to decide when and whose child she has? Now, isn't that what we're really saying?
Mm,
It's a different way to frame it. When and whose child she has.
mm.
Anyway, that's just an example. So a lot of it's messaging, I think. We need to stop using the abbreviations and get to what does this really mean to the average person?
Yes.
And there's a real good example. The
Yeah.
woman should be able to choose when and whose child that she has.
Yeah. It's and to get back to that, like we were just saying, let's stop even using DEI unless you're gonna say in my terms. I think
yeah,
the in my words means say no to division, say no to exclusion, and say no to ignorance. But if you're saying DEI, just use the whole terminology: diversity, equity, inclusion. So that
yeah,
way, as I explain to you, what part of this do you have a problem with? What's wrong with it?
excellent.
Yeah. Okay.
Mary, you have a question.
Yes, I do. Well, not really a question, but we've got early voting now, and that's much better than having everybody vote within a 12-hour period. But I don't think it's really increased the voter turnout. I didn't see it in the last election, in the April election. Wouldn't you think that would help a lot more people since you don't have to wait until the Tuesday?
Yeah, I think it's good to hear your voice, Mary. I think
Oh, sorry.
that's okay. I think all of those progressive efforts to make voting easier definitely matters. But I think Harvey hit up on one key thing that we keep kind of moving past is that everyday person, a single mother who's got to work 2 jobs and take her kid to 24-hour daycare, she's not an insider in this political activities like most of us are. She's trying her and he or her, their main concern is survival of that moment. And so politicians could really help us out too. So if we
How
elect
can,
the right
how can
people,
we get a politician to help us out?
I mean, if we elected the right ones,
Oh, yeah, okay.
and that's it gets back to the electoral process, right? If we had the wrong people in office like we do now, then it disenfranchises, it disengages, and it kills the appetite for voting. Opposed to when you have somebody that's producing results that improves the quality of everyday people's lives, then they can connect with that. When the kitchen table stuff is the core things that people wake up every morning thinking about. My daycare expenses, gas in my car, food on my table, light bills being paid. And who's going to help make that better for them? Someone who's going to focus on good job training programs, good job opportunities. We got to connect all those dots. There's a whole electorate that has a huge distrust for elected officials, and that's because of the clown show that we are engaged in right now. They're putting more they're putting more meat on the bones as to why would I go vote and I have someone like this who's making my life more difficult. So that's what I mean by if politicians could help if we got the right ones elected. I should have put it that way. Right now, we just don't have the right people.
Thank you. Any other questions or follow-ups? John, thank you very much. Very much appreciated. I appreciate the work. I think we all appreciate the work of you and the NAACP. And just one more plug for your event, you guys. You hear about how well they use their resources and the things that they do. I'd like to just share their screen here. This is from their site for their upcoming Freedom Fund dinner. And if you sign on here, don't be scared by the prices. There's lots of, if folks can afford it, you want to do some great big donations, that's great. But there are as little as the general contribution of $150 for a ticket. So again, a very, very good cause. And that is on June 14th. And I certainly encourage everyone who's interested to participate. If you haven't thought about it, give it some thought. John, thanks again. I owe you a phone call. I know that we will do that.
Look forward to it, Harvey. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. You're welcome to stay around for the rest of the meeting if you want. I'm going to show a video that I think you may find of interest.
Okay, I'll hang around.
Okay, so what I'd like to do, we're running a little bit early, so this will give me an opportunity. Fox News is starting a campaign going after the idea that it doesn't suit the economy and the general public for the government to be giving money to the lowest income folks in our in our country. So they're actually starting to slam well, they're using the term trickle up, and they're starting to slam the idea of trickle up. And this is a 3-minute video that I recorded off the TV of their presentation. And notice one of the things that they kind of slip in there is that the money that's injected into the lower economic levels eventually makes its way to the top, to the rich people. So the whole thing is just helping the rich get richer. And at one point, they actually tell the truth. Well, first off, that's the way our economic system kind of works. As you spend money, eventually the big corporations get their cut over and over and over again. And they finally slip in there that it takes 5 years for that to happen. Now, I have two responses to that. First is I believe that is true. The second thing is that's why we have a graduated income tax, is to level that playing field. And in the times we've had the higher the high level of income earners graduate income tax, the stronger the middle class has been, and the better the government services have been. So, the greatest generation after World War II, the upper tax bracket was 90%. Anyway, I'm going to play this video for you, and just so you know what kind of propaganda they're trying to put out there. They're trying to prepare their people to defend against trickle up, or in other words, government helping people at the lower echelons of our communities. Let me find the video here. Here it is. It's 3 minutes, if you'll bear with me. And then we can open for discussion on anything you want after.
In fact, we live in a trickle-up economy, and it's most evident when politicians give money to poor people. Because the reality is that they're giving poor people money because they know eventually will end up with rich folks. I know it may sound counterintuitive, but when politicians give money to poor folks, see, it eventually makes its way to the top 1%, also known as political donors. I often refer to this research paper from Stanford. It was really amazing. 2023, the insights there, I just want to read just parts of this thing, right? Because the simple framework, the distribution of excess savings, right? All the extra cash that they have out there, and how it just spend down the poorest households with the highest NPCs spend down their excess savings the fastest. So the poor people get it, and they can't wait to run out and spend it like those old Black Friday things. And I got to tell you, one of the things they talked about is their framework, which recognizes that one person's spending is another person's income. I mentioned NPCs a moment ago. It stands for marginal propensity to consume. So everyone's got an NPC. The broker you are, the higher your NPC is. And of course, this as the poor folks spend their money, the trickle up starts to slow, but the bottom line is it starts to trickle up to wealthier folks who know not to spend like that. So the premise is pretty simple, folks. When you get extra money, Wall Street knows it, the government knows it, you're going to spend it. There are three types of income groups. You've got type 1, the spenders at the bottom 80%, the next 19% type 2, and the top 1%. And this is what it looks like. This is really how it looks. So eventually, everyone gets this money, right? So let's say this is based on the Biden stimulus program. $2 trillion goes out. The bottom 40% get it, and they spend it right away. They can't wait. They excess savings. It makes its way. Little wealthier folks in the middle, they spend slower, but they still spend. And eventually, all of the money goes to the top 1%. All of it over a 5-year period. All of that money, and it was designed this way. You have to understand, this is what it's designed for. You were never designed to hold this money. You were designed to go to the mall with this money, and guess what? You did. This paper was spot on. Check out what's happened to wealth. So it took from 2009 to 2020 for the top 1% to get $15 trillion extra. They made another $15 trillion in just 3 years. This works, folks. The problem, though, is that we're not saving as a people. The rich are getting richer. It's trickling up. Think about this. At COVID, when all that cash went out, the savings rate at one point was 32%. We knew it wasn't going to stay there, but boy, oh boy, did it drop. This December, down to 3.3%. Now, this black line is your savings rate. It has come back. It's at 4.6% now because, you know what? Even though incomes are coming in higher, people were spending less. And this is a good thing. You're not put on this earth to prop up the stock market as a consumer and have nothing in the bank. It's not your patriotic duty. Be smart and be aware, right? Be really wary of politicians that say they're helping you when actually they're coaxing you to go to the mall. Knowing you will spend all of that money, and once you spend all of that free money, you're going to pull out your card and max that out too. Stop getting played. All right, I want to switch gears here a moment because
Okay. I don't know about you folks, but I believe that's the beginning of a campaign to start cutting services to the lower income folks. They're starting to soften up the target, so to speak. Anyway, we have a little bit of time if you want to discuss that, or you want to open the discussion to anything you guys want, or any more announcements that anyone has.
Yeah, I'd like to chime in on that a little bit. You're absolutely right. Because what the Trump administration is doing is, so these agencies are required to cancel any DEI-related training and end any related contracts. So that means the federal workers are asked to report to Trump's office, personal management, and if they suspect any DEI-related program has been renamed or used in a different way, they face adverse consequences. So there's a reduction in the workforce when they do that, and a lot of federal employees are people of color, and this supposedly merit-based versus diversity hiring. So within the next 120 days, Trump ordered the assistant of the president for domestic policy, the Office of Management and Budget, in partnership with the newly established Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, Elon Musk, the unelected Afrikaner, to develop a new plan to prioritize merit-based hiring rather than based on the applicant's race or sexual religion. This is all deceiving language because really the initiative is a political statement, and it's part of a calculated strategy to redefine the role of government and as essential public services and enable discrimination behind closed doors. That's what it's really doing. So you're absolutely right. They are softening the target, and they're going after the very most unfortunate among us. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what they're saying is, gee, you give someone who's poor money, and guess what? They spend it because they need it to survive.
Right.
And
Right.
they just go to the mall.
Right. Yeah. It's very arrogant, heartless.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, it looks like the very beginning of a very strong campaign that they're going to have. That may have just been the first volley.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, John. And any other comments, questions?
I think it's
Folks.
just more of an example of Fox lying. They lie to their viewers and their viewers believe the lies. The people on the lower income level, because I've been there, I was a teacher with a bachelor's degree, working full time, but I had 2 boys to raise and I qualified for food stamps. I couldn't have gone to the mall with my food stamps. And a lot of the income I got from teaching, I had to spend in the classroom to be able to do the job of a teacher. I wasn't going to the mall. I never bought a big screen TV. It's just lies. And Fox puts them out there and these people believe it. When I was doing phone banking before the November election for Ellard Gross, I spoke to a woman and one of the lines in the script for the attorney general, the one I was hoping would be our attorney general, was about he wanted to end puppy mills in Missouri, which we'd already voted on. And one woman said, I don't care what he does about puppy mills, but when is he going to end teachers having litter boxes in their classrooms for their students who identify as cats? I said, ma'am, that's not happening. And she did not believe me. I could not have convinced her. Nothing. I mean, I said, do you know of a classroom where this is happening? She said, Marquette. She did not even know Marquette was a high school. She thought it was an elementary school. She lived in Baldwin. I said, I have friends who teach at Marquette High School, and I can assure you there are no litter boxes in any classrooms there. And she hung up on me.
Yeah, that seems like the more outrageous the lie, the more that people want to believe it who are conspiratorial or whatever. Thank you, Lois. Any other comments? Mark?
Yeah, I think that that's just totally absurd. I mean, what it basically boils down to is why is money bad? If if he really believes that, I'll take his. Uh, but it also just defies basic economics. I mean, he comes up with this fancy sounding stuff about the marginal propensity to spend. Sure, I understand that. And I understand that people with less money tend to have a larger marginal propensity to spend, which means what are the chances they'll spend the next dollar that they put in their pocket? That's the margin, is the next dollar. And I happen to have a degree in this stuff. Might be a little dated, but but the principles remain the same. And that is that there is something called the multiplier effect. And that is how, what happens when the government puts a dollar out there, whether it's on defense spending or housing or whatever. And I looked at the number recently, but I just couldn't find it. But when I was in school, it was around 3 times a year, so that a dollar would circulate 3 times a year. You give me a dollar now from the government, and that will make it to the next person and the person after that. So it's 3 times. And so what he's talking about is not crazy. It's just being warped in some special way that happens to suit him that convinces me I don't want the next dollar. Well, I kind of do. I think most people do. And so fundamentally, it's just flawed, and he throws in a lot of stuff that designed to flummox the average listener who maybe doesn't have a degree in economics or didn't go to college to even take an economics class, and that's totally wrong. And people should, unfortunately, most people, I guess, don't have the time to inform themselves on these things, but I wish they would, so they could understand what's really being said here and how stupid it is.
Yeah, and it's interesting because he actually kind of acknowledged the multiplier effect when he talked about it taking 5 years to make its way back up to the top, so to speak. In the meantime, it takes 5 years from the time that person at the bottom spends it. So it's going around, it's creating jobs. They buy gasoline, that creates jobs. They buy a car, that creates jobs. It groceries, whatever they're spending it on,
And
it stays in the community.
and putting the money into diamonds doesn't serve to, if you hand it to somebody who's richer, their marginal propensity to spend is somewhat lower, and they put it in the bank, and there's a multiplier there, but it's not as high.
Yeah, I used to contemplate the difference between people building an expensive house and people buying an expensive piece of art. And I finally came to the conclusion that when they build an expensive house, they're creating a lot of jobs. That's a lot of labor. So there's a lot of people in the community being employed when that happens. When they buy a piece of art, not so much. Same amount of dollars out of their pocket. So it's an interesting illustration, so to speak. So the
Well,
people at the bottom tend to spend money on things that stay in the community.
and the dollar spent on a piece of art actually tends to go to people who have a lower propensity to spend that money, because the average auctioneer at Christie's, I'm assuming, is pretty well taken care of.
All right. Thank you. Any other comments, questions, topics, announcements? Floor is open.
Harvey, I just wanted to let you know I did drop a document in the chat about the
Oh,
Missouri Ethics Commission. So I
okay.
lost it. I lost internet for a second. So but you all should see that. If people want to download that, it gives some information. I didn't even realize you get compensated for that. So that's a plus.
Yeah, but you get to hide your address from the from the public when you make a decision. In the angry public, because either way people are going to be mad.
Of course.
No, I'm just kidding. Okay, well, I'm opening that myself. Um, any other comments? Any other topics for future meetings? Anything?
Harvey,
Yeah, Nancy.
this is Judy Campbell. I just want to thank
Oh, Judy.
John Bowman for speaking about DEI. And it's really something how the Trump administration turned DEI, which is so important in the field of social work, into an absolutely terrible thing. Also, DEI was, something that interfaith communities strive for. And he's turned around with propaganda and gaslighting us, saying DEI is bad. It's just shocking, which we all know. But to take a good term and turn it into evil and to get people to believe it. And that's just my comment.
Yeah. Nancy, did you have you had your hand raised?
Good to see you, Harvey. I just wanted to second Nancy Price's comment in the chat. She was hoping to get an update on the SAVE Act about voting. So thank you, Nancy, for putting that in. And I have the same, I would love to hear that too. Thanks.
Does anyone have an update that they can provide?
Probably have to call the election board. I'm sure they would be very helpful.
Any other?
I believe what's happening is that it has passed the House and it's going to the Senate. So we need to really try and stop this. I don't know if everybody knows what the SAVE Act is, but check it out online. And it means that basically every time you change your address or your name or anything, you have to bring in your birth certificate and all those documents. If you've gotten married and changed your name or any of those things. And it will pretty much eliminate people being able to register at tabling events because people don't usually walk around with all that information. So, it will really put some barriers. And the best thing I haven't looked today, but the last thing I heard was that it was headed to the Senate. So you might want to write your US senators. Good luck with that.
Okay. Any other comments, announcements, questions, suggestions?
Question over here with my husband.
Yeah, Harvey, I would just,
Don't get loud.
Harvey, I would just like to make everyone aware of the fact that the Republicans in the state legislature are attempting to take away what the voters approved in terms of paid sick leave and an increase in minimum wage. And I don't know how many people live in in Tracy McCreary's Senate district, but she is one of the leaders in the filibuster to try to prevent that from happening. So I think she deserves a lot of credit for that, as do the other Senate Democrats who are standing up against this effort to take away what the voters approved.
And the minimum wage one too. Yeah.
Can I add on to, this is Linda Resney, what Nancy Price had to say? If you have to go to the Board of Elections with all of these documents, every time you move, any kind of a move, even within your own county, it will be, most people on the average move every 5 years. And the feds are not giving any money to the Board of Elections in order to pay for all of this added business. It will be even worse than going to the DMV, waiting in line in order to register to vote, which people will then not do.
Okay.
It seems like an unrepublican way to handle, an inefficient way to handle their concern about illegals voting, and should be a bad mark on their efficiency to make such a mess of it.
Yeah. Huh.
Well, one of the issues that I see with that too is that a lot of renters are more likely to have to keep registering every couple years. I mean, some people rent for 25 years, same place, but it's more likely that less stable households are moving around. You know, you crash at grandma's for a while and then you go to your aunt's house and whatever. Or you just stay somewhere a couple years and have to move on. So in effect, it will be more odious for people who don't own their house and stay in it for 25 years.
Any other comments, questions, suggestions, announcements? Mark?
Yeah, I wanted to address the last comment. Do you have any way to know whether these less stable households would be Republican or Democrat voters? Because I think in a lot of the country, it might fall out a little differently, and the people who would be deprived would be of voting would be Republicans, and I'm no longer sure I much care. Although, there was a time when I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think if you want to defeat something, you don't go so far out of the future. Tell them how bad it's going to be on them, because they will probably plan to move at some point in the future, at least understand that.
Well, I'm asking about today. Do we know that the people who would be, and I understand that Republicans don't care if we get down to one voter so long as that voter is a Republican, but do we know how that falls out? Maybe Democrats are better off if those kinds of concerns are going to affect Republicans disproportionately.
Just to follow up on that, I mean, I was going to add that again, a lot of the voter advocacy groups, somebody earlier mentioned Measley were, again, they are nonpartisan. So I don't know. Yeah, I think that's a great idea to maybe try to like study that and I wanted to just try to connect that to, I think Anna in the chat had a question, like, what do we say to Howley and Schmidt? And again, maybe it's to just emphasize that people of, all walks of life are going to be burdened by this. Again, that inefficiency argument and that it is going to affect their own voters. I mean, again, not that logic with them necessarily works. Their minds are probably set, but it probably wouldn't hurt to point that out to them. But thanks, everyone. Yeah, I think that's a tough question.
Yeah. Just as a reminder, the town hall meeting that's coming up. Let's see if I can. I don't think I can. We have Senator Chris Murphy is going to be there for Friday, the 25th at 4 p.m. Again, sign up through Mobilize. The link is in the chat. And I suggest you save the chat now. I think we're starting to approach conclusion of the meeting. So now's a good time to save it if you want, or click on that Mobilize link and sign up for the event this Friday. Okay. Any other comments, announcements, suggestions for next meeting? If you think of anything, email me or Sydney. Our emails are at the bottom of the invitation you got for tonight's meeting. Our phone numbers also. Sydney, do you have any closing comments you'd like to make?
No. Buy your tickets for the gala if you're going to the St. Louis County Democrats Gala. Buy your tickets for the NAACP Freedom Fund dinner. That's about it. Sign up for all the events.
There you go. Check Mobilize, use 5calls.org. Real easy, kind of fun, actually. If you've never used it, give it a try. Okay. With that, are we ready to conclude the meeting, Sydney?
Yes.
Time to close the meeting. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate all the work and everyone does, and keep your friends and neighbors engaged, and see you next month.
Thanks, everyone.